Good morning, dear Ambassador. Good morning. We are today with Jan Kohout, Ambassador of Czech Republic in Rome, Italy. You are, dear Ambassador, our second ambassador in our list of the 10 ambassadors that we are interviewing this year for celebrating the 20 years of adhesion to European Union. And we are more than happy that you can host us in your fantastic, very nice embassy in Rome. As I told you before, we would like to start our interview with a personal feeling, a personal touch in with respect the main issue of our interview. So, if I can ask, where were you 20 years ago at the time of your country accession to European Union? And what do you remember about those days at personal level?
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor, for having the chance to talk to you and for this interview. I highly appreciate this possibility. 20 years ago, in personal life has happened quite a lot, but it's difficult to forget what has happened on the 1st of May of 2004, because it was, in fact, the last my day in Prague. I was packing my luggages. I was having a dinner with my family, and next day I was leaving for Brussels by car, because I was appointed as the first permanent representative to Coreper 2 after the accession to the Czech Republic to the EU. So for me personally, it was the start of the new life, new endeavor, personal life, and also at that moment also for the Czech Republic being full-fledged member of the EU.
So it was a very tiring day for you, but moreover, you told me when we spoke before that this was not the more emotional moment with respect to the accession of the Czech Republic to the European Union. Maybe some happened before.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, the 1st of May was emotional but very personal, because the challenge in front of me was high. So to really well to represent well the Czech Republic in this club, so to say, of the ambassadors, so to achieve the goals and not to disappear among the others. But from the really most emotional moment was when the results of the referendum regarding the EU accession, which was held 2 years before, in fact, in Czech Republic, and the results went out that more than 60% of the Czech population is willing to join the EU. So that was the real moment. Till that moment, it was a political clash. What are the advantages, disadvantages, what will happen with the Czech Republic in the EU? So, but at that moment was clear. And that was for me, who was involved in promoting the EU. So, working on the, let's say, transformation of the Czech administration to be in line with the structures of the EU, how, especially in the foreign policy, common foreign policy. So for me, it was the moment when it was the yes, so it's done, and now we have really to focus to be very well prepared in all aspects to understand what is the EU is giving us, what kind of chances, what we want to achieve in the EU, what should be, why we are in the EU, because that was not the EU as such as a goal, but it was also the tool how to promote how we can contribute to the development of the EU, and how our membership will contribute to the development of the Czech Republic.
If I can jump in your observation, nowadays we are seeing that, for instance, in Georgia, European Union is connected with the idea of freedom. Okay, Georgian people is strolling through Georgian roads wearing the European Union flag, to contrast the so-called Russian law that seems to be a sort of tentative to control the freedom of Georgian population. If we go back again 20 years ago, more or less, to Czech population, Czech Republic population, to the Czechs, what were the ideas that were considered at that time from Czech government, but Czech population, Czech people, to be part of European Union? Why Czech decide to be part of European Union? Just for economic reason, for freedom? What were your ideas?
We were separated from the rest of Europe by Iron Curtain. And it was an artificial Iron Curtain imposed by the Soviets. And in the past, we were always the part of so-called Europe. We were part of the lands of the Czech crown, were the part of the Holy Roman Empire. We were integrating in the Middle Ages, at the beginning, early Middle Ages. The Czech kingdom was integrating the others, then was integrated by the Austrian Empire. We were always part of some European affairs. The Prague was the center of the start of the Reformation, so the start of the 30 Years' War. The royal or emperor court was in Prague, so that's why Prague is so beautiful, because that was the center of culture of the Holy Empire. So we were feelings of the Czechs were always we are the part of Europe. So for us, it was a kind of natural process. The motto of the Velvet Revolution was back to Europe. It was not geographically. It was meant to Europe with European values, democracy, freedoms. That was the main. And the symbol and the materialization of those visions, of those feelings, was the EU, giving the chance to keep the democracy, to strengthen the democracy, especially after the transition from the authoritarian regime to the democratic regime in all aspects. So it was seen, the EU membership like cementing the democratic institution, the democratic orientation, that it cannot happen that we would be influenced by some other forces like the Russians, or that there will be no wavering. So the road is clear, the best for us, also from the point of view of course, the economic prosperity, security. So everything was involved, but emotionally. So we were always the part of the EU. So it was just the return back. Where was the place for 1,000 years?
Okay, now there are 20 years that you are in the European Union. You are full participating member, with your opinion, with your ideas that you bring in European context. If we could compare the idea of European Union that the Czech population support, you think that something has changed in these 20 years, that the Czech population now sees the European Union in a different way?
I wouldn't say that it has changed substantially. Those expectations which were in the beginning and which have materialized in many ways, like the prosperity, the security, the democratic orientation, to be part of this most important and developed part of Europe and world. That's still on the table, and that's important. No one who is not a lunatic wants to go out of the EU. But still, the same feelings and the same expectations are present, like the prosperity, like the security, like the democracy. But at the same moment, there are some feelings that the things are a little bit changing on the EU level. the security with the aggression of Russia on Ukraine, and with no response of the European industry, economy, and the leadership. In fact, we are unable to be producing more armament, more ammunition. After 2 years, nothing has happened. The second security danger is the migration, the illegal migration. That's bringing a lot of problems to Europe. It's not managed well. It doesn't matter that we are against the migration, because we have in the Czech Republic more than 10% of population are foreigners, Slovaks, mostly the Ukrainians, Bulgarians, Turks. So we have a lot of migrants also from the Middle East. So we are not against the migration, but must be managed not to disrupt the societies, but to strengthen the societies. So that's the security. And the third is the prosperity as such, because some of the regulations taken by the EU, especially regarding this green transition, the unrealistic goals, and the ways which should lead to this goal, which is totally acceptable. No one is against to have the new CO2 neutral economy. It's good, but there must be a number of ways, and not just to go into the one way or to rely on the technologies which are not developed. It creates a lot of difficulties. So the expectations and the solution could be only on the EU level. It's totally acceptable for the Czechs, so that's why the support for the EU is still absolutely prevailing. But at the same time, it doesn't matter that this main issues like the single market, free movement of capital, and the others that are important for us. But on the other side, we see that it's some steps taken by the let's say, not to blame just the European Commission, but also the states, was not going to strengthen those feelings, but to somehow to jeopardize or slowing down the competitiveness of Europe, which is visible everywhere. Yeah, so the internal market. So we have the report of the Mr. Letta. We are expecting the Mr. Draghi. So that's the reflection of the situation where we are. In a good way, we were going the way, which is not leading to a progress. I remember from 2010 the Lisbon strategy.
Yeah.
Lisbon strategy that we will be up to the United States in a 10 years term. And where we are, what's the portion of the GDP, global GDP, by the United States, the European, the US is still on the same 25%, but the GDP, global part of the GDP of Europe is lower. So that's what we have to react. So there is nothing changing in the feeling that EU is only solution, but the EU should work a little bit more realistic and different way.
What you are saying brings me to my next question, that is related to the fact that in few weeks, all we member states, we will vote for the new European Parliament. What we can see here in Italy is that there are no so much interest in these European elections, maybe for fault of the EU institution, maybe for a problem of communication, we do not know. I would like to understand if in Czech Republic you have the same sensation, and what are the main issues that the candidate to be European Parliament member are facing in this campaign, electoral campaign, if there is an electoral campaign in Czech Republic?
We have that's very, very similar situation. The European elections are still felt by the population as the second class elections. In fact, the opposite is true, because the European Parliament has the big role and adopting 70 or 80% of the legislation, which is then implemented by the national parliaments. It's difficult to explain it to those people, but I would say usually the turnout on the electorate is very low, 20-25%, up to 30%. This time I'm expecting a little bit more, because there are some issues which are really in the campaign quite intensive. And I've mentioned them before, that the automotive sector, green transition, in fact, the way how to feed the economies with the cheap and available energy, not hurting the environment, and issues related to the migration. So those are and not to forget, the last one is the freedom of expression, freedom of speech. It's becoming also a issue, because sometimes the people feel that behind this, so let's say, limitation of some expressions, that's not so much present here in Italy, but in the Czech Republic, sometimes to close mouth of the political opponent is just to tell that he is the pro-Russian narratives repeating, and so we have really to keep the European values, which is on which the culture, that's the liberty, freedom, and respect to each other, and not to close to what we see the growing drifting of societies into the polarization or in the camps. That's what I see is quite dangerous.
As you know, our interview are mainly directed to a public that is made by students from civil society. So let's play a very small and a little bit silly game. If you should pick up the best thing that the European Union brought to your country and the worst thing that the European Union brought to your country.
Yeah. So everyone enjoys the freedom of movement. Best thing to travel, especially for the students, the possibility to study in all the universities around Europe. So I think that it's absolutely one of the greatest achievements and benefits, especially for the young generation, to settle in every city. My son was studied the high school in Brussels, then he moved to Leeds, then to Madrid, then to London. So he's true European. My daughter is fluent in Italian and she wants to study in Italy. So for them, it's the Europe is a one space. So that's the fantastic achievement. What is the worst? I would say it's a growing bureaucracy and the growing feeling of the democratic gap that the elites, and that's about also the feelings that's not absolute true, but that the ordinary people have in fact no influence what kind of decisions is taken in Brussels. So there must be a closer, simpler linkage between those really who lives in different regions in Italy or different regions in Czech Republic or Estonia or like Poland, that they are masters of their destiny. And sometimes they don't feel that they are masters, that they vote for something and at the end it's going to not to increase the standard of life, but to increase the taxes. It's not, yeah. So, but this is I would say, the possibility to start the business, to study everywhere in Europe, to travel. Yeah, so that's something my generation was, when I was young, was not enjoying. So I'm so glad that for the young generation, the Europe is Europe. The Czech Republic, yeah, that the part, but not feeling the crossing the border. For me, until now, when crossing the border, it's something happening in my heart because it was not easy in the past. But for them, it's not just from region to region, free move. Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Again, in these times, we are talking a lot about future accession to European Union by several states. There are several states knocking the door of European Union. There are several several stages of the process. And one of the topic about this is that, but we are already 27. If we are too many, maybe the European governance will never fully work. That is still is already difficult, this European governance in this way. If you as the Czech Republic, or your personal opinion as you prefer, would change something in European Union governance, what you would touch? The European Council, the relationship between the European Parliament and the Commission. What would be a couple of institutional reform that you would support, or that Czech Republic supports in this time?
I understand, because I was the member of the European Convention preparing the constitution for Europe, which was then refused by the Dutch and French people, and I was involved in the process of the preparations of the Lisbon Treaty and the adoption also in the Czech Republic. So it's difficult for the moment. The Czech Republic is not willing to open the treaties. And I personally also, I'm not so much in favor, because I was witnessing those discussions for 10, 15 years, how those deadlocks after the refusal of the constitution, so there were 2 years deadlock. We spent a lot of time in the EU, so focusing on the architecture of the institutional setup, not dealing so much with the more pressing issues like the competitiveness, industrial policies, how to challenge the world was challenging, and we were all the time looking what would be the balance between. I understand it's important, but the enlargement, like it was beneficial not only for Czech Republic but also for the rest of the EU, of the 10 countries 20 years ago. So we not only the Germans, but also the huge investments from Italy. So Iveco, Unicredit, General, a number of investments. So it's beneficial for. So we have to strategically, we need to enlarge the EU to the space of stability. We are ready as the Czech Republic that we will be net payers in that second round, and we are in favor of this enlargement. But there must be, when making the so-called more efficient decision-making process, we have to look for the possibilities which are already in the treaties, and for the clear areas. So would it be the, let's say, use UMV in some ways, using Passarella? It's in the foreign policy or in the taxation. So we have to not to disrupt. When we will open this Pandora box, so it would be very difficult, and I am afraid that there could be easily 2 Europes. So hardcore Europe, like it was a couple of times on the table, and the rest of Europe. But we have to keep the unity. So we have to look if we can do what we have already in our hands, to look what we can do. And you are a lawyer, you know that there's a couple of things that we can use, but we have to agree in which case on what is the beneficial for the EU. There are sensitive issues taxation, definitely. But what I see is the most would be the best is to clear the internal market, not to have so many exceptions and different regimes in the, like Mr. Lata was saying, and also with the competitiveness, because still the internal market is not fully producing uh, what is possible to do, and to limit the regulations. I think that if we would limit the regulations, the number of the regulations, and to go the way which is like, let's say, in the United States, where each state has quite a lot of possibilities to deal with the taxation or the law. So to look for what is really uniting us, where we need the cooperation and where it's not necessary, because Europe will not be Eintopf, where everyone puts everything here. So there must remain the culture with our pork and cabbage and an Italian carbonara. So that's the beauty of Europe, and not to put them in the one hot pot and then to resolve. But we have a lot of, and that's where we would focus, where we have to do.
Just a couple of last questions. The first one, as you know, you are a real big expert of the European Union for all your career in the European Union institution. At the beginning, European communities were a peace project, because after the devastation, the dramatic era of the Second World War, the founding fathers and mothers of the European Union thought that European communities would be a tool for the peace. But now we are in difficult times, and the geopolitical situation has changed deeply. What do you think about the fact that European Union is now reflecting about a stronger European defense and a possible European, in the future, army? What is Czech position or your personal position?
I would rather speak about my personal, but I think that I am quite in line also with the Czech current government position. 10 years ago, to speak about the European pillar of the NATO was kind of the, you are not believer, you are trying to disrupt this Euro-Atlantic partnership and those close relations between the United States and Europe, when you are focusing that must be a much closer cooperation of European countries. Yeah, so United States and the European pillar. It was absolutely unacceptable notion at the time, 10 years ago. It has dramatically changed. Now everyone is recognizing that there must be a European common defense, even to go for some kind of army. That's because maybe in the EU there are the bigger countries or big countries, and they feel themselves as a big, right? Germany. But when you are putting them into the context of the world, all countries of Europe are in fact small ones, so we can be only united, we will be strong. So what it's also for me as the ambassador in Italy is to promote the common cooperation between Leonardo Czech defense companies to really start the projects, European project, European defense, European defense industry, and they leading to a real European power. That's what we are doing in our favor, and that's exactly what it's clear that the United States will not have in the future. They will not come for the third time. We have to defend ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. We have to defend our values ourselves, and it's not that we want yes or no. We have to. That's the order of the day.
I see your personal position and Czech position. Really, the last one, the relationship between Czech Republic and Italy in the framework of the European Union. Good relationship, bad relationship, sometimes discussion. Which is the relationship between the two republics?
I would say excellent ones. Excellent. Next month there will be a presentation of the book 1,000 Years of Italians in Prague.
Oh,
so you see that's the relations between Italy and Czech Republic or Kingdom of Bohemia, 100 years history. And it's the culture, scientific exchanges were always very close. The mentality close, the perception is very close. And this time we have the governments which are recognizing that those challenges, those facing, we are together and working closely. So on the political level, on the highest political level, the exchanges of the prime ministers, presidents, also in the sphere of business, on the EU, in the EU cooperation around the table, so with regard to Euro 7 and migration. So it's very, very, very close and intense. And I think that Italy, being the big country, so in the context of the EU, not in the context in the world, needs and it's good to have always the friends and the partners in EU, and the most natural ones are from the Central Europe because of those 1,000 years. So because we understand each other, because we like each other. Hundreds of thousands of Italians traveling, mainly student exchanges to Prague, very well knowing Prague. The same from Czech Republic in the winter to ski in the north, during the summer to Rome, Sicily, Sardinia, everywhere. So we have the really close relations, and we as the Czech Republic, we also have the need to have someone from the big three. That's always about the alliances, and this is the one of the most natural ones in Europe. Nothing artificial, nothing so artificially developed in the mind. There's no social engineering. That's because the economic culture, knowing each other, is so natural that would be a pity not to use it for the moment to maximum.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador, for your time.
Thank you,
really
Professor.
thank you, Czech Republic and Ambassador Jan Kohout, for this very nice interview that I think that would be very interesting for all our followers at Europe Direct at Roma Tre University. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this opportunity. Thank you.